is a sandpaper where, you see people use it in the work of carpenter, or maybe when you're painting your home, you just use it to even out the walls. Maybe some people use it even to sharpen the knives. In art, I see sandpaper when we sharpen our blending stuff. But I tried something different and I drew a wolf on the sandpaper with pastels. I had pen pastels and pastel pencils, and do you want to see the result? Here you go, amazing. I'm going to explain to you what was the difficult part of drawing on a sandpaper, what were the pros and cons. It's coming. If you love my videos but you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to like this if you enjoy my video until the end. Now, let's draw a very cute wolf on a sandpaper together. Before I show you how my wolf turned out, I want to tell you about my drawing process. In order to know which colors I'm going to use, first I have to do some analysis. I inserted this photo in PowerPoint. By using the eyedropper tool in PowerPoint, I'm trying to understand what colors on this wolf so that I can actually match them with the color set that I have. I see that basically I have some tones of gray and brown and maybe a little bit of blue. That's great because I have similar colors on my pastel pencil set. This is the sandpaper I'm going to use. My first impression is that it's pretty thin and it is pretty soft, and I see some industrial lines on them, so hopefully when I paint on them they will be gone. Well, we will see how it goes. So how do we transfer our sketch on a black paper? I did some tracing on my monitor, computer monitor, and this is it. I have my wolf on there, and I turned the back side of my paper, and with my white stick pastel, I am basically hatching all the area that covers where the wolf is, and I'm checking in the middle to see if I covered all the necessary areas. And once I'm done, you can see that I am collecting all the excessive dust because I want to use it for later. As a next step, I just turned my paper and I placed it on my black sandpaper. I taped it so that it wouldn't slip. With this pencil, I'm just going to trace over my previous initial sketch, and then you will see that it will all be projected on my black sandpaper. I'm applying a lot of pressure here so that I made sure I get all the details on my sandpaper. Here it is. Looks great. Love it. Now we have our sketch, so I can start from the background. For the background, I'm going to use this tool for pastels. I usually use this on my pastel mat, but I don't know how it's going to turn out in sandpaper. We will see together. It's not bad at all, actually. My pastel is staying on the paper. That's great. One thing I noticed though, it is much more transparent. It's not as opaque as the pastel mat. But that means I will need to do more layers. Not a problem at all. I also realized that in order to do the layers, my fingers do a better job than the tools that I've been using with pastels. Interesting. For example, if I add this fifth layer here, I noticed that it started to scrape the previous layers and it started to show the base black color. And I did not like that. But once I stopped using the tool, but I used my fingers, then it was blending all those layers much better. Of course, my fingers started to burn because it's a sandpaper, so be careful with sandpaper when you are using your fingers. I'm going to use this tool for the first layer. Let's see how it's going to turn out. For the ears, I needed a strategy. Am I going to go dark on a lighter base, or am I going to go light on a darker base? And I decided to go on light on a darker base with the ears, and I'm starting to put my paint on now. The first thing I noticed about this, it is exactly as same as using a pastel mat, so I was impressed. The only thing I noticed was it created too much dust, much more dust than my Clairefontaine pastel mat. I think it's because it doesn't hold on to the paper as much as it does on pastel mat. I blew them here, but I don't recommend you to blew it away because it might hurt your lungs in long term. Try to just, lift up your paper maybe and then collect the dust or swipe the dust like that. Now I'm adding all the first layers. I'm using all shades of gray almost, and also I added some raw umber tint. Now it's time to blend. Normally I would blend with a cotton tip here in my pastel work, but I don't know how it's going to work out on a sandpaper. Interesting, because it's not working. I will show you. It literally shredded the cotton on the cotton tip. So there's no way I can use it. I'm going to use my fingers then. I'm being really careful, not applying too much pressure and blending all the pastel layers that I did. The other thing I realized was also the sandpaper is eating my pencil more than pastel mat. Not like maybe twice more, but it's definitely more. Also, while I was doing the details with my pastel pencils, I realized it's almost like putting it on a pastel mat. It's not very much different, but I cannot get fine point. My all lines were a little bit thicker than what it would turn out on a pastel mat. Yet, I like the vibrancy. I could use my pastel pencils and get a very similar result. So really, it wasn't very different for me using a sandpaper while giving the details. Speaking of blending, I used Q-tip here by just tapping on my drawing very gently. I was able to blend them nicely. I couldn't put much pressure because otherwise it would shred all the cotton on my Q-tip. So what's the secret of having the white fur? How am I going to show the white fur on the first layer? I think the trick is here to use an off-white or very light gray as a base layer instead of white. Because if you use a white first layer, then you won't be able to show your white pencil on it. So this is what I did. In the first layer, I used just a very light gray. So whenever I used my white pencil, it was showing very nicely. Also, I added some really nice indigo blue in my black, so it didn't look very dead and dull, Here we go. I added all the colors I see on my wolf, and now it comes to the blurry part. The blurry part is on the left bottom corner, and I'm going to show you now how I managed to draw that. I added all the fur details with brown and dark blue here, and I added some black. And afterwards, by just having little touches, really taps on those lines, I added some blurry effect. I didn't put a lot of pressure, I just touched them. Literally, I just touched them and lift my finger. That's it. Of course, we have to do this in the direction of the fur growth, and you will see a great result in the end. Adding the final details now, as you can see, the one thing that I really liked about pastels, you can draw on a dark with a lighter pencil, and I was able to do that on a sandpaper as well. Nothing changed there. Here comes the whiskers. The whiskers was not difficult, but they were thicker than I thought. As I said, it is harder to get finer point on sandpaper, but overall, I think it was a good experience. Some of my students ask sometimes how I get that 3D look on the trees in the background, and now I want to show you what I did. I added all the shadows first with the dark color, maybe a black, and then the light tones with white, and I added some brown in between. The key is to leave some space among those lines, and then with my finger I just blended them in the direction of the tree. Then yes, you get the result. Maybe I blended too much here, but you can arrange it as much as you like, and you can do many layers if you like. And I added more highlights here because that's how it looked in the original photo. See, it is really easy. Industrial lines were still there after I painted on them, but they were less visible. If you think that this is a problem, then maybe you shouldn't use sandpaper. And also, I don't think sandpaper is a good choice for commissioned work. I hope you like this, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button. I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Thanks for watching my video. If you like my videos, please don't forget to subscribe. And for my real-time narrated tutorials, visit my Patreon, patreon.com/Ece Gurler. Stay with art and love.